Okay, welcome back everyone to the Buyers on Demand podcast. I am again your host, Sean Stewart, and it is a pleasure to be here seated with Justin Bruce. Justin, thank you so much for joining the podcast today.
Thanks for having me, my friend.
Yeah, of course, of course. It's an honor for everyone that's been listening to the podcast. First off, thank you, thank you, thank you. We've received a tremendous amount of support from new listeners, people that really enjoy the mission here. For anyone that's new, not familiar with our podcast, our mission is to make marketing accessible to all realtors in this space. We find that this industry in particular has a really bad problem of bad apples who try to hide marketing secrets and tactics and strategies behind paywalls, whether those be courses or marketing companies, etc. And in this industry in particular, the best marketing strategies that I've seen are the ones that people are just doing every day, the fundamentals, the basics, over and over and over again. Justin, I'm sure you're going to have a lot to discuss in this call. For anyone that is new, first time listening to this episode, and doesn't know who Justin is at all, Justin, here's my synopsis on you. You correct me if there's things that need to be added here. What I've seen from your background, Justin, is that you are a national speaker, a CEO, team leader. Your mission, as we just discussed previously prior to this episode recording, your mission is to, again, you are a rock star realtor, but you're also on a mission to empower as many realtors as possible with everything that you've learned in your time in the business. Prior to becoming a real estate agent and CEO team lead, you have decades of experience at this point in the sales world. And as you just told me, you've learned that in real estate, especially when you're just getting in, it's completely different from just a transactional sale. This is relationship building and transformation of a prospect or a client. This is completely a different world. Justin, for anyone listening at home, how would you describe yourself?
Goodness gracious. Well, you made me feel old because you just said decades of experience. I don't think I've ever that before.
As soon as I said it, I was like, oh man, am I dating this guy? I hate to say it.
No, that was awesome. 2022, my life changed when I watched a video with Gary Vee. And I think it was 2019. He stood on the stage at Edmond. He got paid $250,000 or more. And he told these real estate agents, I'm going to tell you what to do. And 99% of you in this room are not going to do it. And the room laughed, every single one of them. That's the problem with this industry. When people ask me, why do you give away all your secrets? Well, 99% of people listening to this aren't going to do what I tell them to do. I'm not worried about you stealing my business. Also, my business is my business. So I think this is an exciting time right now for real estate. I think there's some big changes coming, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about that and sales.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I teed it up in the intro to your background, Justin, about this sales experience that you have. Let's start from the very beginning, because I know your first experience into sales is a nightmare to many. That being, door to door. Was that your very first experience in sales? I won't mention how long ago this was.
A while ago.
But
Yeah, so I was in retail management for a long time, and then I decided after leaving college, we'll say, that I wanted to control my income. Everywhere I worked, they pay you $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. You worked 60 hours a week, and you clocked in, you clocked out. That's what you made. Then I realized the only way I was ever going to write my own check was working for myself, and so that's why I got into sales. And the best way to learn sales is to do the hard door-to-door cold calling sales. And so my first one I ever did was selling phone lines door-to-door for AT&T. And hopefully AT&T will sponsor this podcast for you now. That was hard. I mean, that was literally walking into businesses cold and saying, let me see your phone bill. Let me see if I can save you some money, while you're really trying to add value to make money. So that was tough. And then from there, I got into a little bit more warm sales. So started working with schools, selling homework folder advertising. That way the school would give me names of people to go see. So I already had a letter from the principal and kind of a little bit of a warm intro there. And so that taught me a lot about sales and fear of loss and how to talk to different people and how each person has their own type of personality and how you relate to people. And I think that has kind of shaped me into what I do today.
And I can totally see that as soon as you're describing this. It's interesting, just so that you're aware, Justin, my background, I have been in sales for the past, 9 years now. And all of my sales experience has been cold calling, inbound calling, everything basically on the phone. Yeah, and I could totally see that, Justin. Your experience in in-person sales leading to you becoming a real estate agent makes complete sense to me. I just a little bit about me and my background. I have about 9 years of sales under my belt now. Everything has been basically on the computer over the phone. Virtual kinda inside sales, I think, is the new terminology. My background, I started with Microsoft. I was selling very expensive software to businesses, and my job was to just make hundreds of cold calls a day, and that was my first foray into it. And so what I've learned through all of this kind of outbound, inbound, just kind of phone call sales, virtual inside sales, if you will, is that there are different levels to the game. Me having experience on the phones, might be scary to some, but then when I look at like in-person sales, I do have some experience, not as much as over the phone. But in-person sales is a whole different animal as well, because now not only do you have to memorize a script, but you also have body language to be aware of. You have to be able to read off a script without a piece of paper or anything, be able to actually talk to someone, make eye contact, actually have a regular conversation instead of, pretending like you're typing or looking for notes, and trying to figure out a response. And so there are levels to the sales game. And where I'm going with all this is walk us through, especially because as I teed up this at the very beginning, door to door can be probably the most intimidating in terms of the sales approaches for most people. And so walk us through, like, if you can recall some of your first moments when you're selling door to door. And also my other question is, you mentioned phone lines for businesses. So were you walking into businesses? And when I think door to door, obviously I'm thinking like walking door to door with homes, but this might be a little bit different. So walk us through the early days. What was that whole experience like?
Yeah, this was B2B. So, I mean, this
Yeah.
was literally walking in to a coffee shop or a restaurant or a clothing store, and you're saying, "Hey, I'm here to see the owner. I'm here on behalf of AT&T. I need to see your phone bill." And you would get everything from go fly a kite to here's my phone bill. And I could tell you it was more of the first one than the latter. And so it taught you how to talk to people, how to introduce yourself, how to make eye contact, how to use these different things like fear of loss and your neighbors doing this and all these different sales techniques. And I think that is what kind of led me to wanting to get out of that and wanting a more warm relationship business. Because in real estate, I don't feel like, as I told you earlier, I don't feel like I'm selling. I'm just creating relationships and then people trust me. And so back then, I actually had to get people to trust me very, very quickly. Now I create trust way before anybody is ready to buy or sell real estate.
That is, if there was like one common answer or response or mantra that I hear on this podcast, it is exactly what you just mentioned, because the nature of your business is such an impactful decision for the person that you're transacting with. I could totally see where you're coming from when, like, you're selling something, not to say it's, a commodity, but compared to, for example, buying a home, you are directly impacting someone's most important decision in their life, transitioning from one phase of their life to the next. So every single person I've talked to, I think, has mentioned exactly what you just mentioned, that like this is totally different than any sort of sales experience that I've ever done. And because of that, just for anyone listening, I know that this is a marketing podcast, but I really want this episode to, I'd love to double down on the sales components of this, because I hear that from the surface, and maybe people listening as well. And all these questions start to come up, especially for new realtors that tune into the show. Like, I have a lot of people that listen to the show that are first year in the business, and they're like, how do I make an impactful relationship with someone without coming off like I have commission breath, And so that's where my first question comes to you. How do you build those meaningful connections with people?
Two very simple answers. One, 50+% of your time should be spent doing content. Plain and simple. Two, if everybody's ever read the book Unreasonable Hospitality, Will wrote an amazing book. Uh, I got to hear him speak 6 weeks ago, and it was amazing. And I took away from that as I was building my new thing. I've always given and asked for nothing in return, and so we now call it unreasonable generosity. And so when you give without expecting something in return, something always comes in return. And so that's how my entire business has been built, through content, I started with ADTV before I got my own TV show, and being able to highlight the community, from nonprofits to restaurants to teams to all these different things, the Chamber of Commerce. I get to give people something and I get to ask for nothing in return, and business always comes from it. Sometimes right away, sometimes 18 months down the road. But if you continue to just give in your early days, I promise you it will compound in the years.
And since you're mentioning Gary Vee, it's that jab, 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 right hook kind of idea. Totally. Makes total sense. My question for you, because there's many ways that I can go off that, what you just said. But before I get to that, Justin, I didn't ask you where you are currently doing business today. Have you always lived in the market that you're in? Did you relocate? What does that look like for you?
It's a good question. So I was born in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and moved around a little bit because my parents had a chain of clothing stores. So we moved to Iowa, then to Ohio. And so now I'm in Columbus, Ohio. I went to school here starting my junior year of high school in 2001. So that'll tell you how to age me right there. And then I had been here since, other than my wife and I actually ironically moved back to Missouri for 3.5 years for her to go to chiropractic school. So she grew up here. She was a state athlete. She played soccer in college. Everybody knew who she was. I was a nobody. Still am a nobody. But I built a personal brand here through real estate and media by becoming a media company first and then a realtor. So that's another Gary. I'd call this the Gary Vee episode. But you got to be a digital mayor. You got to become a media company, comma, whatever it is, realtor, podcast, business owner. So I really took that to heart. And so I haven't been here, but now I guess it's been 25 years. It feels like yesterday. But I didn't grow up in this area.
So the problem with that answer is I had a follow-up that I was going to ask you regarding sales, but now you mentioned media company first, realtor second. Now I'm like, "Oh man, let's tackle that for a second."
Yeah.
Expand on that. What do you mean when you say a media company first? What are, if you can, give some tactical details for the audience here.
Yeah, so this goes back to what I said earlier about 50% of your time should be spending doing content. And so I spend a lot of time doing video. Do I love being on camera? Absolutely not. But I know that most people are not going to do it, and those who do are not going to do it consistently. And so for the last, I would call it 28 months probably, I've consistently posted on my social media 3 to 5 times a week with valuable content to my sphere. And what I saw happen was it started to compound, and it went from hundreds of views to thousands of views to tens of thousands of views to hundreds of thousands of views to millions of views. And what I'm doing there, and here's your hack for all you new realtors, 90 some percent of your database is not going to transact this year. I think it's once every, depending on what book you look at, 7, 8, 9 years, whatever it is. So the key is you must be top of mind when it is time to transact. So I spend most of my time building valuable content for my sphere, whether it's real estate related or not. Mine has transitioned probably 80% non-real estate related, just valuable content to my sphere. I still sprinkle in the real estate. Everybody knows what I do now. I built a personal brand. In the beginning, you've got to build more of a real estate brand because people don't know what you do. But I had the great fortune of, when I opened my wife's chiropractic business, we went and gave back all the time because she didn't have any patients. So we were out in the community, we were volunteering, we were doing downtown cleanup. Everybody began to know who we were, and then we always gave back. So as soon as I got my real estate license, guess what? People don't care what kind of experience you have or how many houses you sold. Any of you that are going after those big awards, or you want to put up a just sold post, I'm here to break your heart. It doesn't matter. They want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so I started having friends and family calling me going, "Can you help me? Can you help me?" And so I learned the business very quick because I took it very seriously. But to get back to your answer, the media company, you have to be producing content consistently. And here's the key, authentically. You can't produce content that's not you. Like, my son loves soccer. So I became the realtor for the Columbus Crew. I took him there. We filmed a bunch of content. We did an episode on the TV show there. I love bourbon, if you can't tell. We did an episode at a distillery. I got to bottle my own bottle, that white one right there. 18 months later, the owner of the distillery, whom had a realtor at the time we filmed, sent me a referral of his brother and has sent me 3 this year. If you continue to just do media and give through the media by giving very valuable content, you stay top of mind when people are ready to transact, they call you.
A couple questions I have based on everything you mentioned. First one, and it's funny because I literally before this episode, I just made a piece of content and it's me ranking excuses that people have for why they're not making content. And at the very bottom of the list for me, which I consider to be like the worst excuse in the book, is the I don't have time. That is to me the worst excuse ever. And what you just mentioned is you need to be consistent with posting content, but in addition to that, it should be valuable and authentic. There's basic 3 core components that on the surface, oh, okay, I just need to post valuable, authentic content consistently. Sounds easy, much harder in execution for most people. My question for you is how do you, because for you, Justin, like I would imagine that you're probably busier than, I won't say the vast majority, but many, let's just say many, right? Especially when we're talking about new agents, much busier than many new agents that are just starting out. How did you find time to consistently post valuable and authentic content each week for 28 months?
Prioritize. Anybody who tells you they don't have time is full of it. It's not that they don't have time. They're not prioritizing the things they want to prioritize. If you have time to scroll on your phone for 3 minutes, you have time to film a video. If you have time to go screw around at the bar, go play golf, you have time to do this. Everybody has time. I run 3 different LLCs, different businesses. I have kids in travel sports. I mean, I have all these different things, but I have time to sit down and do this podcast. I have time to film content. Now, I will tell you, here's a hack. As you start to do more and more, this is free advice from my workshop that I teach. I only film my produced, really, really polished content 4 days a year. People blows their mind when I tell them that. But I've gotten very good at it to where I produce 36 videos in 4 hours, one time a quarter. I have it all prepared, ready to go. My videographer knows what we're doing. It's all edited in 2 weeks. It sits in a spreadsheet. My assistant posts it Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Tuesday, Thursday, I do authentic content, which ironically, typically performs better than my canned, polished content.
Mhm.
Polished content stays in front of people. My very off-the-cuff, authentic content is what connects with people. The other stuff is more like funny, get to know Justin. Oh my gosh, I can relate to that. His wife hit him with the door, that kind of stuff. But then if you go look at my social media right now, I stopped in front of the stadium after an event today. They just announced the women's soccer team coming to Columbus. That's huge news. So guess what I did? I parked my car in the middle of the road on Columbus Crew Way. I got out and I put the logo in the background and I did a video saying, guys, NWSL, they're in there right now filming a video about this. I got 4 tickets for tomorrow night. Who wants to go? I haven't even looked. My phone's blowing up over here off screen. I promise you there are dozens of people wanting those 4 tickets for tomorrow. I offered something of value. I gave them news that is relevant and is going to be a big deal to Columbus. And I asked for nothing in return. I will be shocked with you if I don't pull some sort of business out of that over the next week.
I love it. That is right to the heart, super tactical for people. I love that you just mentioned that example. Let's dive a little bit deeper because yeah, you can call it the Gary V episode. You once you said media company first, realtor second, I'm like, okay, let's get into the weeds here because now I'm really curious. Talk to us. You mentioned videographer. Are there key figures that help you stay consistent in your content creation, such as like an editor, a videographer? And my follow up question to that would be at what stages do you recommend that someone goes and looks for these people to help with their content creation?
Sure. So depending on your budget and where you're at, I mean, start by turning the phone around. The iPhone camera probably rivals most cameras that these videographers carry around anyway. So just turn the camera around and put your face on video. Do a green screen with whatever this NWSL announcement, for instance. When we're done with this podcast, I'm going to pull up a screenshot of that announcement and I'm going to put on a green screen behind me and I'm going to do a quick video about it and put it out because that is valuable to every girl that plays club soccer around here and her family that have gone, oh my gosh, we want a women's team here. It has nothing to do with me. My daughter doesn't play. I still think it's cool. I'm connected to it, but it's going to hit home with some people. So A, turn the camera around. B, as you start to grow, I would invest in media more than I would invest in anything else. It is not that expensive to get a videographer, go find a videographer who's new. Go find somebody in a film class at the college, in a local college, be like, hey, you want to do an internship? I'll let you film videos for me and you can edit them in practice. Now you got somebody doing it for almost free. And then you get to a point where you can actually bring in a full-fledged media deal, which is what I have with whom I use. And so I film content with them. They do all my listing videos, which are always consistent because I use the same company, the same thing over and over again. We can get into listing videos later and how I use storytelling to be different there. Um, but the biggest thing that changed for me in media was I hired a coach. And I think everybody should have a coach. I was lucky enough to meet the guy who helped, and he hates when I say this, helped build Ryan Serhant's brain. And Ryan did everything on his own, don't get me wrong. But my coach is Tyler Mount. And Tyler has held me accountable on many different things as I've grown from no personal brand to now building out a team of 9, 10, 12 agents while I step out of production. And so that is all to say you can step from just turning the camera around and using your iPhone all the way up to full scale production, where at some point in the next 24 months, I assume we probably bring media in-house because we'll be spending more doing it outside with these companies than we could just hire somebody to follow me around every day.
I love it. I love it. First off, Tyler Mount, you're getting a lot of shout outs on this podcast. We just spoke with Tara last week and she was like, yeah, I partner with Tyler Mount. So, awesome. Awesome to hear that. Um, Second thing that I had for you, there's a lot of interesting pieces that you mentioned, and I love the step-by-step playbook, especially for I always try to envision like someone who's just starting out, the problem that I see, because I think about it from my lens too. I always try to think about this from my lens. The problem that a lot of younger, maybe more inexperienced, excuse me, people have when they're first starting out and they see influencers or popular figures on social media that are in maybe the real estate space or just in any other industry is that you always hear the advice when they're at the top of the hill. And you never hear the advice from someone who's maybe just 1 foot forward. And the reason why that becomes a problem, especially from my perspective for the longest time, is I never knew the roadmap. Okay, that's great that you're telling me, for example, like everyone knows Hermosi, and so like Hermosi can tell you things, um, from where he's at, $100 million perspective, and says, okay, here's what you should do in this circumstance. But what do I do to get a media team before a realtor? And what you mentioned is like, okay, step one, go find someone who's an intern or into college and ask for an internship. Like, that's great. I love that you gave that super tactical advice. I think that's super helpful. The next question I have for you, again, this is like my favorite thing to do is I same with Hermosi, he likes to break down words. I love to operationalize these things I'm listening to on the podcast with realtors too. You mentioned valuable, authentic, consistent content. Can you break down for us what does it mean to have valuable content? Because, and here's my caveat, just to give you some more context. If I'm a new realtor and I hear make valuable content, and I see this all the time, especially with people just starting out, they go and they think that means, okay, let me set up my camera and let me talk about the 5 steps that are needed to buy a home, which is not what you're talking about. However, that is perceived as valuable for many people. So take it
Well,
away. Tell us, what do you mean by valuable content?
there is some value in doing some real estate related content. It's all about how you deliver it. But what I mean by valuable content is figure out who your avatar of a client is. So I'm in my 40s. I have lots of friends that are physicians, attorneys. They're all in that move up stage from their first home to buying a nicer home now. I deal with a lot of venture capital guys, a lot of athletes because I built my business in sports entertainment. So I know what my avatar is. So when I produce content, I'm doing it to what do they like? What does this 35-year-old insurance agent who's making 500 grand a year and his wife loves to do this, what's valuable to them? Well, there's a new winery in town. So I'm going to go interview the owner of the winery and find out why they opened the winery here, what kind of specials they have, and how great it is for the community. Or I'm going to go to the local nail salon and find out what are they doing different. I'm going to highlight all these local things that would be valuable to a person as a person not to a person buying real estate. As I said earlier, people don't transact. 90 some percent, I don't know what it is, of your database is not going to transact this year. So valuable content is what is valuable to them in their day-to-day life. The NWSL team is coming to town. Oh, there's a new winery. There's a new distillery. Oh, there's a new park being built. There's a new basketball training coming to town. All of these things, rating the schools, rating restaurants, all of these things are valuable to the community instead of just what is an inspection? What is an appraisal? If I'm not buying a house this year, do you think I care at all what a VA appraisal is? Like, no. Now, if I want to buy a house this year, do I think 5 steps to buying a home could help me? Sure. And that's YouTube long form content that should be showing up in search results. Here's another hint for you. If you're not using YouTube Shorts, you better get your head out of the sand because that's what's going to funnel into these large language models. And that's who it's going to recommend. So you want to get ahead of all the realtors who've been doing this for 30 years? Start posting consistent, valuable content on not only your social media, but on YouTube Shorts.
Love it. Love it. This truly is the Gary Vee episode because you've mentioned, I think, 4 different things from like I've seen in a Gary Vee episode. So I'm like, oh, YouTube Shorts, Gary Vee, like 100%. 50% of content, I think Gary Vee just posted that. So I'm like, this is the Gary Vee episode. Okay. Love everything you just said. There's one thing in particular that really stood out to me with what you just mentioned. And that was, well, I'll start with this. There are many questions that I always have. And so I'm like trying to think in my head which one to ask. You mentioned, okay, if you're not already, try YouTube Shorts because these large language models, are going to just scrub. They're already doing it now. AI will scrub from YouTube Shorts, whatever the case is, for search functionality. For someone that's trying to post on social media and they're trying to figure out which platform to go on, TikTok seems to be a good one for X, Y, and Z. Facebook seems to have good results for X, Y, and Z. YouTube has good results for X, Y, and Z, but oh wait, maybe I should do LinkedIn because I can connect with people directly. How do you make sense of all this nonsense? How do you stay focused?
A great question. So for me, I don't know the answer that is the right answer. I'll tell you the answer that works for Justin. I believe that Instagram is very good for my age range. A lot of people in the 35 to 45 are there. The people that are more in my parents' age are on Facebook. The ones that are in my friends who have kids that are teenagers is more of the TikTok. The professionals are on LinkedIn. One that people miss all the time, Google My Business. I actually post a similar or the same video to every one of those platforms that you just heard me say with a different caption based on who I'm trying to speak to. And so you got to figure out what is your client avatar? Who do you want to go after? Don't say, I want to sell everybody that wants to buy a house. I'll be them. You can't do that. It will not last. Find what your niche is. The riches is in the niches. So you've said for years, find it. Are you a veteran with a Purple Heart? Awesome. Be the veteran realtor. Are you a former athlete? Cool. Be the sports entertainment realtor. Are you a single mom? Go help all the single moms. That's your passion. Whatever it is, there's a million niches out there. Find the one that is authentically you and then attack it and own that lane. That's what I did. There was nobody doing sports entertainment in Columbus. I said, I'll be a sports entertainment guy. Here's the secret. Now it's all out. I'd never worked with an athlete before I worked with an athlete. Until I sold a house to my first crew player, I wasn't really a sports entertainment guy. I just said, this is what I want to do. That's what I love. And then all of a sudden, now it has steamrolled into more and more and more and more nationally. And so now I found that niche and I own that niche for me everywhere I go.
So now, for anyone listening still in this podcast, this is a probably appropriate time. We're going to get a couple layers deeper now because now you're bringing up more advanced questions. So indulge me as we go down the iceberg here. There's 2 things that you mentioned that I really would love to touch on. This is before what you just said, and then I'll ask one with what you currently just said. Before you said what you just said, you mentioned what I like to call, what most people like to call formats. So you didn't directly say it, but you mentioned like you don't want to, for example, put your phone up and say 5 steps of a home. You mentioned a couple different options with a green screen, but more importantly, you mentioned like a rating different neighborhoods, rating different areas to live, ranking, blah, blah, blah. There are, for anyone that doesn't know what I'm talking about on social media, there are various formats or creative styles that you can choose from on how you relay a message. Instead of me doing 5 steps, to buy a home and have the phone up and me sitting at my desk, I can turn that into ranking the 5 best ways to buy a home, whatever the case is. There's many ways to relay the message in a more entertaining way. And because you have posted for 28 months straight, I'm sure that you've found that certain ones work better than others. And I can almost guarantee that one of those is probably green screen because you've said Gary V at least like 10 times in this episode. So my question for you is, have you seen that certain styles of video work better than others for you?
Yeah, it's funny. Mine is a little bit different. I teach a workshop around the country about this, and my personal one's a little different than what I teach because it just works for me. So I have a lot of my sphere that like to see relatable, funny videos. So I put my wife and my kids in over half of my content. And so whether it's me opening a cabinet and it says 1 year in marriage and she opens the cabinet and tells me to duck, and then 13 years of marriage, she smashed me in the head with the cabinet. I fall out. 7-second video. I've had one where me and my daughter stood in timeout together. It was a 7-second video. It got 4 million views. But it's just keeping people engaged. Now back
Mm.
to the green screen. Green screen is super awesome because if you have Gemini or ChatGPT or any of these large language models, you can literally go in and say, give me today's headline news about real estate in Columbus, Ohio. It'll give it to you. Click the article in the Wall Street Journal or the Columbus Dispatch, whatever it is, screenshot that article, put it in ChatGPT and say, hey, tell me about this article. Tell me something cool about how this affects real estate in Central Ohio. You don't have to know everything. Like literally use the tools that are in front of you and then take it. It'll say, rates, the war in Iran is going to end today. So rates are going to drop zero point 0.2 points. Great. Get on that green screen and say something about that that's valuable to your people that don't know what's going on. It doesn't have to be real estate related. It could be the soccer thing. It could be what's going on in the neighborhood, a new restaurant. Find something that is valuable and then use the different platforms and the different types of video and test them out. Instagram has this new trials, which I'm sure you're using.
Oh, yeah.
I can
They're
put a
free
video.
ads. They're the best to me, they're the best feature I've ever seen on any platform. But anyways, go ahead.
The key to that is that you get to put a video out to people that don't know you, test it, put money behind it to your sphere. But what you just said is the real hack. It is free ads.
Yeah.
People are paying. I don't mind putting money behind stuff that's working. And this is another secret for you from my workshop. Don't boost and put ads behind everything. Test your content. Whatever catches traction, then you can boost it to a bigger sphere. Don't waste money on everything. So hopefully that answers your question.
It certainly does. I love how it's it's very rare that I get to go deeper and deeper into content, and I have so many topics that I could talk about the deeper we go. One of them being, so this is my second follow-up question, so now we're gonna go even a layer deeper now. You mentioned, the riches and the niches, right? Niching down on your content, finding your ideal avatar, awesome. Very good. Um, Number 1 piece of advice I always hear from pretty much everyone. My question to you is, there's 2 ways that you can go about this. My personal experience as well, I've done both. I have certain preferences over the other. Both work. Um, what I've found is for someone that's listening and they go, "Okay, the riches are in the niches." I think that my ideal avatar, for example, is gonna be a first-time home buyer or someone who is, um, single mom, right? Like you mentioned. They could take that, run with it, and make every single piece of content about that avatar. However, I would imagine what you've done, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd love like this is where some nuance comes in, which would be awesome for the podcast, is you've probably found that there's a good blend of niche and broad, where like you don't always, for example, with every single piece of content, maybe need to go super narrow of like, hey, if you're a single mom in the Columbus, Ohio area that you're looking for a Northwest home, like that's very specific, you might have found that and this is going to be really in depth, but there are strategists that you probably are familiar with, maybe even Ryan Serhant. Actually, he would be a perfect example. Strategists like to call this CCN fit. What is a fit with my core audience? What's a fit with my casual audience? What's a fit with my new audience? So where I'm going with this, you've probably seen something similar because you've described that you have a very clear vision on your sports and entertainment avatar, However, you just brought up some examples of like skits or funny videos that you've done with your family. And so I'm curious, how do you blend both the broad content that you posted and the super narrow content that you post for your ideal avatar?
Yeah, so I try to keep it at 80% not real estate on purpose. And really this stemmed from someone asked me a few years ago, how do you balance everything you have going on? Family, work, kids, sports. And my answer, I hope your audience doesn't get mad at this, is balance is bullshit. It does not exist. And so what I did is I merged my life into my business. So when I'm filming the TV show and we're going to COSI to film with the CEO of COSI, my kids are getting out of school that day and they're going to go with me and they're going to be in the episode and get VIP access at COSI. If I'm filming with the Columbus crew, they're going to be on the field, in the locker room, having fun. So I think the key is to blend your life into your business and it doesn't feel like work anymore. I don't feel like I'm going to work when I wake up anymore. I used to get up and put on a suit and drive the nice car and pretend I was this guy that I wasn't. And it wasn't me. It wasn't authentic. And I didn't do tremendously well. I'm comfortable in joggers and Jordans. You can't see them right now, but I have a pair of Jordan 1s on every single day. That's my brand. I have different colors, but I'm always in the same thing. So now I'm comfortably me and I build my content around what is comfortably me. And so, like I said, 80% of it is how do I relate to the audience? 20% is how do I find that niche and give them value?
It's funny because every single person in the ADTV network that we've talked to,
Mhm.
you guys are so like authenticity kind of like just runs in your veins. Like every person that I've talked to, you look at, for example, like we've had Alex Quate on the show, Tara last week. We're having you on the show. We have a couple different guests from ADTV, and when you look at their pages, they have so many videos where they're just selfie style talking. Like Alex has this series that she runs where she does like coffees in the morning and she's just in the car with her hair like undone, just picking up her kids from school. And like you guys all seem to uh, preach this same message of authenticity and how important it is. And I love that, especially in this age that we're in with AI slop content replicated just nonsense where people can, with all the tools that we have available, like anyone at this point can go to Ryan Serhant's page, take the transcript of any of his videos, recite the same script, upload it, and you have copycats like that all day long on pretty much every big creator. But what really stands out is the story behind your personality and how authentic you show up on camera, like you're saying. And that leads me to my next transition, which you mentioned earlier that we would touch on. The other thing that everyone's been talking about from ADTV is storytelling. Obviously, you guys have your own TV shows, you know how important that is, but also it's a huge pillar of how your brand comes across on social media. And so I'd be curious to hear from you. What have you found in terms of the best storytelling elements, or how do you frame a good story for not only just for followers or views, but also to get people from your content to potentially work with you?
Yeah. So hopefully it's a lot of realtors watching this and not the normal public. So I'm going to let everybody behind the curtain here. When I film a listing video, shh, it's not to sell the house. I'm showing the next seller how I sell a house. So when I'm doing a listing video, I will tell you, I'm being a little facetious here. When I tell the story, it is to elicit emotion in that potential buyer. So this morning, we just released a coming soon. I did not say the address of the house. I did not say how many bedrooms it has, how many bathrooms it has, how many square feet it has. I told a story of what is it like to live in Pickerington, Ohio? What is it like to live in this neighborhood? What is it like to live in this house that has a movie theater and a koi pond? What could I do around here that makes me want to have this house and nobody else to have this house? It's not the bedrooms. It's not the bathrooms. It's not the square footage. It's the feeling of someone goes, oh my gosh, coffee in the morning on that patio, or watching one of those Disney movies with my kids with the popcorn machine and the candy machine there, and then the wet bar with my bourbon. What does it feel like? And so I'm not only doing that in listing videos, but I'm doing that in my content. I'm showing a story about what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Same thing with the ADTV episodes. Every single episode that I do is a story. It's not, hey, look, it's the Columbus Crew, guys. They're a soccer team. Awesome. It's, for that one, for instance, how does the Columbus Crew give back? Well, they're really big into chronic absenteeism in schools. How does lower.com give back? Oh, well, they do stuff with different financial institutions to teach kids how to manage their money. All these things, I'm always trying to find a thread of a story of how that person or that organization is giving back or changing the world. And now I get to highlight them for that. I get to tell the story, but guess what? I'm now attached to that forever. So Columbus Crew win the MLS Cup. Guess what I do? First thing, release the Columbus Crew episode again. High Bank Distillery, I did an episode with them. They just won best vodka in the world. Guess what I'm going to do? Release the episode again and say, oh my gosh, congrats to High Bank. You guys are awesome. So the storytelling is everything. If you put that in your content, your listing, your personal brand, my brand is very intentional. Everything I do is a story about how did I get here. Everything's not perfect. I've dropped out of college. I built a team that failed. I mean, there's a lot of things that I've done to screw up, but it's built to get me here today. And I'm going to fail again tomorrow, but I'm going to continue to fail forward.
I love it. Justin, that is probably the best way that you could end this episode. That was a fantastic answer. This episode, I won't say that because it's like a kid saying that one of their children is one of their favorites, or a mother rather saying one of their children is one of your favorites, excuse me. But this episode was something special. That's what I'll say. And you can take whatever you want from that as you wish. I would love to have you around again for us to go even deeper with some of your content. For anyone listening at home, I originally came into this episode wanting to talk specifically about sales. I even told Justin before this podcast started, where I said, I see you have a ton of sales experience. I've been dying to talk about sales on this podcast. I'd love to go deep into that. And this conversation went the completely opposite way and for the better, because we've not been able to touch so deeply on some of these topics with content. And Justin, it's been an honor to have you here. So thank you for all your words of wisdom. Is there anything, I know you mentioned that you're going on tour, you want to impact as many realtors as possible. Is there anything that you would like to share with the audience about what you got coming up?
No, I mean, I switched brokerages because I saw a pathway to head out on the road and teach my media is the new marketing workbook and workshop. And so I could do that at any brokerage. I can do that for any, I actually have it now. I have a keynote that is for business owners that aren't in real estate. So anybody that's looking to teach their teams about how to use relationships, media, and personal brand to build a business without having to buy leads. This is the key. I do not buy leads. I'd be happy to come out. I love to get on the road and teach this workshop. It comes with a workbook and we actually walk away. I hate theory. People come and teach, oh, you should do this on social media. No. You walk out with a book that I make you fill out during that 120 minutes and you have a plan that actually goes into action and then a 30-day challenge after that. So I would love to come out. Anybody that you know, Sean, I would love to
Absolutely.
on my fee to come out if they're referred by you. So
Yeah.
you send them my way.
Awesome. I have a lot to send your way. So we'll talk after this episode for sure.
Love that.
Justin, thank you
Cool.
again. And for anyone listening, again, I said at the beginning of this episode, thank you so much for the support. I just so you're aware, Justin, and for anyone listening too, I started my account, posting on my account 3 months ago. We've grown almost 1,000 people. And this podcast, man, I mean, the people that are listening to this and sending us messages, thank you so much for everything you've done with this podcast and the support. And Justin, thank you for joining. I think we're probably gonna have a conversation again pretty soon. And until next time, everyone.
Thank you, my friend. It's an honor.